is your spoiler warning for Joker 2. So if you have not seen the movie, stop the podcast, go see it, come back to our thoughts because you're going to want to tune in. Spoilers have been warned. Ricky Flex.
I got to bring up something before you go. I'm sorry. So we got these great posts. Now we're in spoiler territory. All right. I think this is a great spot to start, Doc. We got these great posters. Fan event, IMAX, AMC. Thank you again for hosting us. Look at that poster. It's, again, if you're not watching on the YouTube, it's Harley and Joker, Arthur Fleck, on the famous staircase in full costume, makeup, doing their kick dancing. You know, we've seen it in the trailer 1,000 times. That isn't in the movie.
Insane. You can't tease us that. Why would you show us that if we can't have it? Like, come on.
But
and
that's
the
like
staircase scene that they do show is such a dud.
But like, do you not see like the symbolism here? We talked about what, like, at least I talked about Joaquin and Todd Phillips saying like there's more to this story. Like there's like so much more to like the reason why we return was to, you know, find more with this character and show it to you because it deserves more and there's so much more left to say. You said it wasn't a musical. Both are lies. This poster and this trailer full of lies. This whole movie, again, was just for money. Joaquin earned 4 times as much as he did prior. Todd Phillips getting a freaking bag. Like, this whole movie, I think this poster is just great symbolism for this movie.
As the Riddler would say from the Batman, no more lies.
Hey,
no
the Batman.
More
Right?
lies.
We also got this poster.
This is a terrible pattern that you just pointed out, and it is a mistrust now for the audience and Todd Phillips in DC. This is before James Gunn. This was in production and was filming before James Gunn had taken over DC Studios. So we're not putting this on Mr. Gunn. We're going to talk about some very exciting projects later, Ricky Flex. But I agree with you. This pattern is very disturbing. I think we should transition from this. And we have to start with the ending. And when I say the ending, what I mean is the death of Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck, at the end of this movie, before there is a massive explosion in the courthouse, after the final verdict is given and he is found guilty for the murder of these 5 different people, and he admits to murdering a 6th person, his own mother, he then says in his final, well, he actually says it in his closing statements, I am not Joker. I am Arthur Fleck. And at that point, Ricky Flex, that's when the wind was let out of the sails. That's when I said, why did we make this? This is a sequel to a comic book movie. And now you are reaching the end of 2 movies. And you're confirming this person is not the titular character. This is not the guy. This is not Joker. I know Todd Phillips had said he's never going to become the Clown Prince of Crime. But holy shit, he's just not Joker. And you spent $200 million on this movie, and you just had the dreamlike sequence where you had Joker acting like Joker, right, with Harley Quinn, dynamic duo, adrenaline pumping, and then that scene happens, that closing statement. So before we get to the death, I think that was devastating. I think for me, as someone watching this movie, saying like, what was the fucking point?
Yeah, you summed it up well. We knew after the first one, Todd Phillips came out and said, yeah, like Arthur Fleck, he shut down all the rumors saying, oh, Pattinson and Joaquin Batman Joker to meet, or like, oh, this Arthur Fleck should meet this Batman. Todd Phillips came out and said, nope, that will never happen because this Joker is not a crime lord. He has no beliefs, similar like we heard in the first one, right? So we knew that, right? But this guy still is a serial killer. This guy killed 6 people. This guy is a freaking like obviously like he like a huge trial of the century, as this movie says. Like you could freaking like don't get like bring us down and say he's not the Joker. Like what is the point of that? Say like oh like I don't know connected to the first one, a mental illness or something. I just don't get it. I really don't. It's like you said, the energy was just taken out of the movie when he was just sitting on that bar stool and doing that. And we haven't even talked about why he was in such a bad mood, by the way. Weird prior scene in the prison with the guards.
Sexually assaulted.
Sexually assaulted, yeah, we could say that, right? And it's just like, why was the sexual assault connected to this? I don't know. I don't know that correlation there, or that kind of linear thinking from Todd Phillips in this script. Why would a sexual assault, one day he's the Joker going crazy in the courtroom, and then gets sexually assaulted, and then he's no longer Joker? I don't get that. What's that connection? I don't know. I think he could have done something completely different.
I'm thinking about it now because they do reference like his abuse as a child, and they said he was sexually abused as a child. So it's like the full circle. Like he's just still the same person. That's
But
just
like,
abuse.
but like, the reason he's the Joker is because he was abused. If anything, it will help like expedite a crazier Joker, which honestly would have helped.
Ricky, I'm not like defending it. I'm just saying like that might have been the thought process of Todd Phillips making that decision. But also later on, they kill we presume he's sexually assaulted. They don't show it, but they're like telling him to take his clothes off or take him to the shower, like the security guards and everything. We can, I think, assume that he was sexually assaulted after getting beaten to a pulp. And then he gets brought back to his prison cell, and his buddy at the prison is then murdered by a security guard. And you would think this might make him snap, just like he snapped at the end, like the climax of the first movie. And that's where I was just like, this movie I was excited for, because the first one was it was an origin story. How did this guy one bad day or one bad week take him to the next level? How are you going to carry that and make it even crazier? Like, I was expecting a full-blown Joker here, and by the end of the movie, it regressed, right? It went from him with the Gary Glitter song down the stairs, murdering 5 people, secretly murdering another person, his own mother, to him saying, "This isn't truly me. I'm just Arthur sitting on a bar stool," right? Think about that arc. How disappointing that would be for someone who is now, for a fan of like Batman and Joker. And by the end of the movie, you're like, he's actually not the Joker.
Yeah, like, especially because the prior scene in the trial when he's questioning Gary, the little person. That scene, I like that scene. That's my favorite scene of the movie. Him like doing the Southern American accent. Yeah. I know some people might not like that scene. I liked it. I thought it worked. And him like bounce around the Southern accent, and try to sound like a lawyer, but then his real voice saying, "I like you, Gary." I think that worked, and it kind of gave me a little bit of energy, saying, "We got the Joker. We have him right here. The rest of the movie, rest of the 30 minutes, we're gonna get him." Literally sexually assaulted, and then boom, we get that. Completely, like you said, what was it? To take the wind out of our sails? That's exactly what it is.
And not only that, then there's an explosion that happens after the verdict, after the closing.
I did not care for that, by the way.
The explosion happens, and I'm like, oh, we might see him tear up the town now because he's Joker. This is what people always want from like a Joker story. Him like breaking out of some type of place that is holding him as prisoner, and now we're gonna get Joker like you see in the comic books. No, we don't get that. Instead, he ditches like basically these people that are trying to save him and put him to safety. Instead, he goes to the staircase to see Harley Quinn, played by Lady Gaga, Lee Quinzel, they renamed her in this movie. And she's basically saying, you are not attractive anymore because you're not the Joker, because you are Arthur Fleck. You let me down, you know? And then you don't get that epic dance sequence. Instead, you get maybe the most depressing scene of the entire goddamn movie, with her just saying, "You're nothing to me," after she has lied to him time and time again and has played him just like Catherine Keener's lawyer character warned him about. But I would also say the courtroom scenes were bland, but when he started to dress up as the Joker, I'm like, fuck, here we go, dude. Like, let's do the thing. Joker representing himself in court. How juicy is that? Like, you're taking all these juicy elements and doing nothing with them, dude. Nothing. It's frustrating.
It's just, this movie's all about frustration and tease. Like, there's so much potential here, and it just went down the drain. And speaking of the Harley scene at the end on the staircase, should have killed him, push him down the stairs, and then like you could do like a montage back to the first one of him dancing down the stairs or something.
That would have been good.
And also, Harley killed him earlier in the movie in a dream sequence, so it would connect. So I just didn't understand that. Especially because Harley just like walks away. By the way, is she pregnant? Is she not? Like, I don't know. That was
No,
also just thrown in
I don't
there.
think she was never pregnant.
Um, but just I think her point in the movie, like, was this obsession, fandom? It can't be money because she comes from money and she has money. Yeah, it just seems odd. The whole Harley thing was odd to me. Did not like it. Just honestly poorly written.
I
Poor.
think that Todd Phillips was trying to make a comment on obsessions with serial killers and thinking about documentaries. There's a TV movie that's made about Arthur Fleck after the heinous events in the Arthur Murray show, right? 2 years prior. Like there is in between the time of the second film and the first film, there is a TV movie. She says she's seen it 20 times. She's really only seen it 5 times, right? There is a cult following that seems like it's more than a cult for Arthur Fleck. I think he's trying to say something also about the obsession with serial killers and yeah, maybe going into the psyche of those people that are being like celebrated in a weird way, you know, and how they're playing up to a persona. I think there's definitely some commentary being done there.
Okay, that makes sense. I like that. Also, you brought up the courtroom scenes being dull. I gotta bring up my guy, Harry Loudy.
Oh,
Harvey Dent. All right, my boy Rob from Industry. Industry heads out there. End of the season 3 finale. Like, you definitely watched it. Holy crap! And our guy Rob got more screen time than I ever would have thought in this movie. And he was fine. But holy crap, was it so bland, his dialogue.
so boring.
Todd Phillips, F this dude. That was so, like, this guy is up and coming actor. This guy's legit. If you watch Industry, you know, all my Industry heads, you know Rob. Absolute maniac on season 1 of Industry. And this guy is reduced to this. And then they have the audacity on the bomb or whatever, the explosion, to do the Harvey Dent side of the face thing.
Okay. This is what we have to talk about. So I did say in the very beginning of the spoiler section that we were going to talk about the death of Arthur Fleck. We're just going to put that at the end now because I think that's where we're going to have the most thoughts here. But the Harry Lawdy performance, it's not his fault because it is the most like basic
Vanilla.
performance of all time. It's like just read the lines, deepen your voice a little bit. Also, has a very deep, surprisingly deep voice for someone that's so slender. You know,
Dude, he's English.
yeah. So I think, and him holding like the thick glasses as he's talking, you know, gives him at least something to do as he's addressing these testimonies. I think also the what's it called, the moment where there is the explosion, and they make sure to show him against the bench, and they show him with a disfigured face.
Right.
It's not clearly only half of his face is disfigured, but you get what they're trying to do.
It's pretty clear, though.
You don't show that moment without saying, like, this is a wink to comic book fans, right? But you know you're getting nothing out of this in the future, so why do it? And someone in our crowd said, it's Two-Face, it's Two-Face. I'm like, who gives a you know? You're never going to see this character again, right? To me, it was like you just throwing it in our face, just like, oh, you're reminding us at the end, oh, yeah, this is Gotham City, because you're not in Gotham City in this movie, really, until the end of the movie. You're not going anywhere but the courtroom and Arkham Asylum. Courtroom, Arkham Asylum. You're not exploring the world of Batman at all. So it's like, oh, mention it's here, just like you had the Martha Pearls at the end of Joker. It's the same pattern repeating, but unnecessary once again.
And also, besides the courtroom scene with Gary and Arthur, the other time I was most excited in this movie was when Harry Lowdy, Harvey Dent, first time has his witness, and it's Ken Lung, aka Eric in Industry.
Yeah.
The Industry versus Industry. Awesome. I was like, oh, let's go. And again, we saw this on Monday, literally the day after the Industry season 3 finale. And again, Industry season 3 finale, insane, unexpected stuff. That was like, oh my God, what the heck is going on right now? So it's sad that was one of the most exciting parts of this movie for me.
I do want to say there are other references to comic book lore I'd like to address. The ones that stick out is at the ending. So did you have any other ones that like you'd like to mention that you either liked or disliked?
There's one right before, like at the ending, but right before that I want to ask you a question about. But I think there's one other thing that we have to bring up here. related to spoilers. That's at the very beginning. Looney Tunes.
Ooh, okay, yeah. To me, I liked it, to be honest. I know our uncle, who we saw the movie with, was not a fan. He was shitting on the animation, but for me, I was like, I'm kind of in on this. I like it. And Arthur, I thought it actually, when you think about it, like Arthur in his shadow is taking the limelight, just like Joker takes the limelight. But at the end, who gets to have like the moment? It's the actual Joker or Arthur Fleck. I think it's actually pretty symbolic of like what the movie was, and I found it pretty entertaining. I was actually a fan, Ricky.
Yes, like a big point of this movie is like separating Joker from the Arthur character.
Yeah.
I get it. I liked it. I liked this intro scene. I was so skeptical. I was more skeptical about this like before the movie when we talked about it on the checkup that one day when we heard that a Looney Tunes scene was going to be the beginning of this movie. I was very skeptical because I thought like Looney Tunes were going to be in this, like Bugs Bunny was going to be in this scene or something. And I was happy to find out no, it's just like in that animation style. And then obviously the Looney Tunes character song at the beginning and the logo, but in Joker form. I thought it was clever for Warner Brothers to do that. And I'll go one step further. I don't mind if like they do like these shorts, like 2-minute like Looney Tunes skits, not like in movies, but like maybe throw them on Max as like an intro or like I don't know, like see, you know how like after you watch a movie, like if you watch Joker right now on Max, afterwards it has like recommended. They could do like like a fun little thing like that. I think that's cool.
Almost like Pixar shorts, but DC shorts.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And like it might not have to be Looney Tunes every time. It could be like, I don't know, DC animated something short or something like that. But I thought this was fun. And I don't know. I thought I actually liked it. And again, I had low expectations for it, but I did like it.
You know what I would like if instead of like comic book movie trailers, we got like those like shorts that like have like messaging for what the movie is going to be about, right? Maybe it has a character or two that you will see in the movie. I think that's a more interesting trailer than actually just giving us 60 to 70% of the movie. I'm in on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Do we have to talk about the ending now?
Okay. So before we get to the ending, who was the visitor?
There was none. It was a setup.
Oh, that's clever. I thought maybe like Harvey Dent or something.
The death, though. Well, our dad was saying, who we also saw the movie with, said it was the little guy, Arthur. No, what's the little guy's
Gary.
name? Gary. Like it might have been Gary.
Oh, that's smart too. I think you're right though because the guard didn't come back. Yeah, I think you're right. It was a setup. I didn't even think of that. That's smart.
100% a setup. Just prison movie 101. So the person that murders Arthur Fleck at the end of this movie is someone that was foreshadowed in the beginning, who's foreshadowed again in the middle of the movie. Just quick pans, but devious look on his face, right? Has a sly smile, and he unleashes a laughter after he shanks Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck stabbed in the stomach. So not only is he not Joker, but he is dead by the end of this movie. And they weren't kidding when they said there is no more after the second movie. There will be no story to tell because he's a goner. However, after the death of Arthur Fleck, his murderer, you can see in the background with Joaquin's bleeding out body in the foreground. He grabs the shank that he used and he starts to carve a smile going from the edge of his mouth to the middle of his face on both sides. And it is very reminiscent of Heath Ledger's look in The Dark Knight. Ricky Flex, this was such a bold thing to do at the end of the movie. What were your thoughts on Todd Phillips' decision?
I was happy that we're probably not going to get a Joker 3. I like that. We don't have to talk about that. I like that. But yeah, the audacity for Todd Phillips to connect it to Heath Ledger's Joker is disrespectful. It is insanely disrespectful. And you made a great point walking out, saying that he basically took the audience's theory of like, oh, this Arthur Fleck is just like a symbol of the Joker, then someone else becomes the Joker. And he took that way too literally and tried to connect it to Heath Ledger and try to please audiences instead of the obvious disrespect that he was doing. I don't know what he was thinking. I think that goes to this whole movie. I don't know what they were thinking. It's just, I think the audacity to do that, to connect it to the Heath Ledger Joker, is honestly, I don't know like how you would ever think that would be okay.
So I don't think it actually connects to The Dark Knight. However,
You know what I mean? Connect. Like,
I know. I'm with you. I knew what you meant. It doesn't actually connect to The Dark Knight. However, you know what you're doing when you're showing that character in the background, then carving his face with that signature smile that only Heath Ledger's Joker has.
exactly.
No other Joker has it. You immediately think of that. That also reminds me of like what makes these movies interesting is that they're not as concerned with connecting to Batman and comic book lore. But when you do that, it's like we have to make people like know that we care about what they think about the movie. We have to show the Harvey Dent scene. We have to mention that Harley Quinn somehow is a psychiatrist, even though it doesn't really fit with the character and it seems kind of wacky, then kind of thrown in out of nowhere. And we have to show that this person is carving his face because he's going to become the real Joker. And who do you think of? Heath Ledger, right? Throw it in there. But this movie having the audacity to try and connect itself to The Dark Knight and what that movie is and what it represents is crazy to me. That's just a terrible decision. And to piggyback on what you said and what I was commenting on as we left the theater, it felt like Todd Phillips literally said, like, this person, he listened to the fans when they said, this is not the real Joker. He's never going to become the crown prince of crime. But the fans kept saying, yeah, he'll never fight Batman, but he'll inspire the next Joker. And that was before people didn't know it was going to be an Elseworlds project. They were having hope that it would connect to Robert Pattinson's Batman. And they were like, oh, we'll have that inspiration. And so you get our Joker and we can connect the movies. You know, that's just the world we live in, cinematic universes. It felt like he heard that and the pressure of it and then threw that scene in at the end, when really this movie is known for just like Todd Phillips doing whatever he wants to do. You know, and he did do that for the most part, aside from a couple questionable or thrown in comic book references. But I just didn't like it because it seemed disingenuous.
Disingenuous. That's a good word for it. He didn't have to do this. Similar to the Martha Pearls. God, the Harvey Dent. Like, he didn't have to do it. And what pressure is there? There isn't any. Especially after Joker 1, when everyone and their mother said they hated the Martha Wayne Pearls crime alley scene.
Yeah.
Everyone said it. Everyone hated all the Batman elements of the first one, really. And you did the same thing in this one. You had no pressure. If anything, you had pressure not to do it. And he only did it is because, oh, I'm not doing another one of these bad boys. For obviously, after this ending of this movie, I can do whatever I want and I'll make them mad. I'll do it in spite of them. That's honestly what I felt about it.
And what people love about The Dark Knight's Joker is that there is no origin story. Don't force anything upon it that even insinuates it's connected to it, because that's one of the best parts about the actual character, about Heath Ledger in that movie, that you don't know where he came from, why he's doing it. You just know he's an agent of chaos, right? You don't want to know anything about him. And to like put that in there, like you got a couple dumb people there and be like, oh, this is an origin story for Heath Ledger's The Dark Knight. I'm like, God damn it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. There's a couple people in our theater pointing at the screen going nuts. And I'm just like, dude, don't do this. Don't fall for this. This is such a weak party trick. Such a weak party trick. That's what it was, Ricky Flex. God,
abuse of power.
Okay. Where else do we want to go, Ricky Flex? I think we covered most of it. I think scenes that you found maybe most effective, because we've been pretty much trashing this movie. I would
shout out Lee Gill, Gary.
Great performance there. He was awesome.
Yeah, shout out. I think he deserves a positive thing to say about this movie. Good performance for Lee Gill. I know Peter Dinklage gets a lot of the little people. I don't know the official term that.
Well, I think little people's okay.
Okay. I just know it's not the M word.
Or dwarf? Is it dwarf? Is dwarf okay?
It might be dwarf.
Let's stick with little people because I think dwarf is definitely on the edge.
Yeah, I don't like. I don't know. I wouldn't know. But Peter Dinklage gets a lot of the roles for the little people. Lee Gill, hey,
prop him.
Take a next step here. Take a next step.
Oh, I almost forgot. You know what I also, before I get to stuff I did like, Zazie Beetz also like showing up in this movie
You know,
I
that
didn't like that.
again, redundant. Just recapping the first one.
But I just don't like it because that was such, I think, one of the best parts of the first movie. Arthur is so crazy. He's imagining this type of relationship. Leave it like fantastical. Don't bring her back for the second movie. And that felt like, oh, we have to like, he's having these dreamlike sequences. We have to hear her perspective. It is a sequel. We have to bring her back. She is a big name actress. I'm just like, like it's better that like we don't see her again. We don't
Right.
want to hear from her again. Like that was one of the best parts to me of the first film, and that's one of like a good conversation to have is like what was Arthur imagining, what was he not, and they basically tell you what happens in this movie, like what he was actually going through, what was his actual relationship. To me that takes away some of the magic from the first movie, so I'm like, I just kind of wish they didn't bring her back.
So I watched Joker 1 literally right before seeing Joker 2 when I met you at the theater. And I'm telling you, man, this first hour and this whole courtroom with all these witnesses just rehashed from the first movie was crazy. And them actually having flashbacks of the first one. Like, I don't know if you ended up rewatching the first one
I
after.
didn't get to it.
I'm telling you, man, like I I don't know if it's lazy writing, they had to make up time. You really didn't have to do it. And it's not like you had to bring back Zazie Beetz because she's a big star and she's gonna attract people to the theater or something. Zazie Beetz has been on a steep decline since this movie.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to bring her back. No one even knew she was in it. I don't know.
Yeah, unnecessary to bring her back. I think hurts actually the first movie by bringing her back. Things I liked. That courtroom sequence with Harley and Joker dreamlike sequence where they are murdering and they're firing guns and they're killing the judge and they are dancing together. That felt like it was straight out of like Batman the Animated Series. Like I loved that so much. I was like, this is what I wish it actually was. But and that's another thing. It's just the movie wasn't violent. Even the first movie was violent. It had action in it. The only action we get really is the explosions grounded in reality. The one explosion in the courthouse. The movie doesn't have it, and it's like you want to tell us this guy's the Joker, but you only show it through dreamlike sequences. And then at the end they say he's not the Joker. It's like, damn, damn. Like we are imagining he's the Joker. That's exactly what's happening. Where he's not actually. We're just like picturing it, and we're watching him do semi crazy stuff in his dreams that I thought actually could have been a little bit more zany. But so those moments where Lady Gaga's also those dance sequences smearing like the lipstick on her face, I loved, right? Her at the piano, Joaquin dancing. I'm like, yeah, this is like what I'm talking about. But
That was
none of
great.
it, but it like doesn't feel like it matters, It just doesn't because it's not actually happening. I guess that's such a obvious thing to say, but those scenes really, I think, had some energy to them. One of my, I would say, favorite aspect of the movie. You know, yeah, I would say so.
I did love that scene of Joaquin dancing while Lady Gaga's on the piano. I knew from the trailer that scene was gonna hit, and that one did hit. And I agree with you, the courtroom scene, I did like that. Um, I will also just say, related to like, again, it's kind of disappointing to say, but I thought we would get like bigger, like with Gaga. I don't want to rehash what we were talking about earlier, but like the scene on the Arkham hotel, the rooftop dance sequence.
Yeah, I wish it was longer.
Yeah, and that was like an ode, I think, to
It was so good.
Coppola's musical, One for Love, I think it's called. Um, but I wanted to see some more like flashy dance sequences or something, or like I don't know. I'm not saying it has to be all high pace, but show me something impressive. If you're not going to give me Gaga and her deep vocals, then lay it all out in the dancing. We got neither of that for the most part. And my last thing with Gaga is this build that mountain thing. That never was sold on me.
Yeah, it wasn't sold on anyone. That made you feel like she's just as weird as Arthur is, but then you find out she's like her dad's a doctor, she's born from wealth, she went to college and yada yada yada. I was just confused why she's acting this way. Is she just a fan that's obsessed with Arthur Fleck, or no, excuse me, a fan that's obsessed with Joker, that is a freak. She's just a freak. you know?
It goes back to what you're saying, like obsession with serial killers and TV movie here. I think it's related to that. I think that was a good point by you.
Uh, I think honestly, since the first one was nominated for 11 Oscars, I could see this getting nominated for best cinematography. I really
I
do.
agree.
I think not only not only the dreamlike sequences, but also some of the grounded shots are pretty amazing. Arthur, right after he sees Lady Gaga, he has sex with her, and then she leaves the prison cell. Like the shot of him and the only light you see is out the window. He leans his head back and he's smoking the cigarette straight in the air. Like that was such a cool shot. And then the umbrellas, the color, Arthur in the middle, the symmetry of that, it looks so cool. I some of the prison sequences I thought were okay, like when they're chanting on Arthur, the riot that's not really a riot that I wish actually spilled into a little bit more violence. I thought that was a cool scene too. I think the camaraderie amongst like the prison mates I actually liked, and them like kind of rallying around Arthur. It was it was cool. I liked it, but not many other scenes. I'm just like wow, like I'm blown away. But best cinematography is basically the one that I think like you can don't not hang your hat on, but it's the one that I think is closest to getting a nom.
Yeah, Oscars love the Oscars. There's nothing more than the Oscars love than the Oscars. And a movie that was beloved, that gets a sequel or something very connected to it, they love nominating those. I don't think this one's going to apply for most of them. This had 11 nominations. Best Picture won't get nominated for Best Picture. Best Actor won't get nominated for Best Actor. Best Original Score, it
A lot
also
of
won
repeat,
for that.
a lot of repeat for the score in this movie.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. Directing, no. Adapted screenplay, no. Cinematography, costume design, I could see those too. Film editing, no, because that's reserved for mainly Best Picture winners or Best Picture nominees. Makeup and hairstyling, maybe.
Maybe that,
So
yeah,
those
that's
three.
it.
Sound editing and sound mixing, I don't think was strong enough.
Although Gaga could have gone a little farther with the Harley Quinn. Like she only gets dressed up twice. Maybe
I
this
agree.
entire like in reality. I guess like dreamlike sequences you could say like best costume and hair design for sure. But like I would have liked her to like lean more into like Harley Quinn in real life.
And yeah, in reality, because there was a big moment when she's getting ready, when she's putting on the makeup right before the last, like the closing arguments, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna match Arthur this time because I know he's gonna dress up," and then he's like, "I'm not the real Joker," and then she walks out with the makeup and suit on, but it's like, crap.
I wanted her to dance up the stairs going into the
I
court.
wanted this scene. I wanted this
Not
scene.
even like going down. Like I'm saying, like her just like making a scene like as she's going in. You know, wanting the spotlight, wanting the attention. Like her just like let Lady Gaga cook a little bit.
Let Harley Quinn be Harley Quinn. Go crazy.
Right. I do. Before we get to scores, my question to you: if this one is a mixed rating in terms of critical reviews, do you think that we're still going to get DC like grounded Elseworld projects? Because we are going to talk about some DC villain projects, like the Penguin's out right now, obviously set in the world of the Batman, been very successful for HBO and Max. We have like a Bane and Deathstroke team up movie that's going to be set, looks like within the DCU. Here, I'm wondering, are we going to get any more like Batman, Black Label, Elseworld project following Joker Folie dude? This character has obviously run its course. Can you see another character having a project greenlit after these two movies?
Yeah, there's the whole reason why they made this is to kind of have that freedom from away from DC Studios. Not get Marvel 5 where everything has to connect. You have to do your homework.
DCU, yeah.
Right. I'm just connecting it to Marvel because, like, obviously, what's happened with Marvel, it feels like you have to do your homework.
No, I'm saying
DC,
like you said distance from DC, like distance from the DC universe. It's still DC, yeah.
yeah, right. I'm just connecting. Yeah, right. The DC Studios does not want to have the MCU problem where it feels like you have to do your homework. So this DC Elseworlds, I think, is great. You got to keep doing them, and they will keep doing them, especially in the Batman universe. When you could arguably say, and I will say, Batman has the greatest ensemble of villains that there are for a
Rogues
superhero.
Gallery.
Yeah, just a rogues gallery you could use, and you don't even have to just keep doing villains. You could go elsewhere. Pun not intended. There's so many heroes you could do. People have always been clamoring for a Nightwing movie. Like you could do that or do a series. You could do so many other things not connected to the actual DC universe because of Elseworlds. It's not because this movie probably is not going to be successful critically, where it just ends after a couple years. No. This is going to get a long runway, and I think it's going to be a great outlet for DC still.
I feel like it's hard to do any movie like this though that is so grounded. I just can't see it as gritty as Joker. Joker is just so like juicy to adapt into a real world atmosphere. It's so hard to do that with any other Batman villain. The closest we have is the Penguin right now, and he's not exactly an A-list. He's more like B-list Batman villain. It's hard to find someone that's juicy enough that people are going to welcome this project. Like, it's hard to make $1 billion movie in the Batman world without Batman. Like, that's
But like,
nuts.
yeah, like again, Joker was the only Superman and Joker are the only two other DC IP heroes / villains characters that actually could compete with $1 billion or try to get $1 billion. But again, if you just do a DC Elseworlds project or something, maybe be your C-list villain or hero, but you make it good quality wise, it's high, and you can make it relatable to us, the audience, then yeah, I think it will work. But if you go, I don't know, you make a Swamp Thing movie, which has been rumored, and it's just completely unrelatable. Nobody really knows that character from the comics, not necessarily a freaking bestseller in DC Comics, DC comic lore. That's not going to work, no matter how good it is. You have to make it relatable, right? You got to have that right combination of two, where it has an audience and people will like it.
You got to ground it.
Right.
You got to ground it.
In some respects, it doesn't have to be as gritty as freaking Joker and try to make it like King of Comedy or any Martin Scorsese 70s New York City movie. It doesn't have to be like that.
No, it doesn't have to be like that. It's hard to do that with characters that look the way they do. The homemade makeup of Joker makes it feel like anyone could be the Joker. Like it could just happen, and the amount of crazies out there, it's like, it feels too real sometimes. Scores for Joker 2. You also foreshadow what we're going to talk about, Elseworld projects, and you talk about Bat Family, what we could see in the future, and we also are talking future villain movies in the DC universe with today's DC corner. But Ricky Flex, your score, Joker 2.
47. 47 out of 100.
41. 41 out of 100 for Dr. O. That does it for our review of Joker. Folie, adieu.